Hey, what's going on YouTube? I am the spiritual superhero, and today I bring you the topic of frustration. Now, with that being said, I have just got done watching a game of football, and I had a few thoughts while I was watching. Now, I, like many more of the world's population, can have a tendency to get quite frustrated while watching my team play. And it got me to thinking, why do we ourselves get so frustrated um, when we watch sport? Now, my thinking on this is that it's really the other teams that are actually playing that would get quite frustrated with themselves, especially if they're having an off day, they're not playing that well. If a particular player is not playing that well, and we as supporters are shouting at the TV, or if we might be at a game and we are shouting at the player from the game, what we have to remember is that these players are well aware of how they are playing at any given time, given their level of what they do and all that. They are aware when they're having a down day, or not playing that well. So what we then have to be aware of is then they are a lot of the time getting just as frustrated with themselves as we are as supporters, that just basically want them to do the best that they can. Which leads me to my next point. They are, in fact, doing the best that they possibly can. Now, just because someone in their chosen profession might be having not such a great day, it's not to say that they're not trying their hardest or doing their best. They just possibly might be having one of those days. And we do all have those days where we possibly aren't performing to our best, in anything that we do. Now, as far as frustration goes, from not a football point of view, but from an anything point of view, I think it's important to, when we find ourselves getting frustrated with ourselves, when we are, performing a task or trying to complete a task, I think it's important to take regular breaks. If it's going to be something that is a little bit more difficult, or even just require a little bit more concentration or effort, it is important to take regular breaks. Because if we will keep doing things and doing things and doing things and doing things until they're done, without taking necessary breaks in between, we will find ourselves getting stuck at certain points, because whether something is difficult or not, we do um, we do need regular breaks to rejuvenate. Maybe for lunch, have something to eat, make yourself a cup of coffee. We do need regular breaks to be able to rejuvenate ourselves, um, so we are better able to concentrate. Um, Now, going back to the football thing, that's a little bit more difficult for them to do because they um, are playing a high intensity game, which lasts for, Australian rules football is 25 minutes a quarter for 4 quarters. So for each 25 minutes, they have to go at a fast pace for that amount of time, and that in itself can, I understand, be quite frustrating because they go for long amounts of time without, the necessary break. Only, as I say, 25 minutes. Every 25 minutes they probably get a 2 or 3 minute break, except for half time when they get a little bit longer. But they go way too hard for too long. On average, an Australian rules football game goes for about 2 hours. So running around on a football field for about 2 hours can be not only a very high intensity cardio workout, and at the end of the game, these players would be basically spent. So, I mean, as far as us getting frustrated with football players, I think really if we ourselves as supporters find ourselves getting frustrated with team sports or any sport in general, because humans by nature are quite competitive, we need to actually take ourselves away from that game and give ourselves a break, because if we are letting ourselves get frustrated with a game that ultimately we can't control, then in turn it will hurt us. We'll get stressed out, we'll get frustrated, and if we prolong that resting period where we don't step away from watching football, if it's going to frustrate us, we'll even go the extra step further and actually start to get angry. So that leads me to my next point. When we prolong dealing with the frustration itself, it will in fact turn for the worse, and we'll actually find ourselves starting to get angry. And further, that will hurt us within ourselves. So, I mean, I, in the past, have been prone to yell at TVs and whatnot while I'm watching football, because I am a passionate football supporter. But now, as I am getting older and a little bit more wiser, I think, haha, Um, I realised that all I have to do is take a break, come away from the game, just give myself a little bit of break to gather my own thoughts about what's going on. Because, as I say, ultimately, it's other people that are playing. We're only just watching. So there's really no need for us to get frustrated about something that is out of our control. Um, Now, as far as with us getting frustrated about many different things, it can be considered the same. Now, um, for example, we might have a day where we want to have a relaxing, resting day, but we will get various messages or people calling us throughout the day, and we might not feel like talking to anyone that's ringing us, and so we'll ignore those calls. And when the phone keeps ringing, we find ourselves getting frustrated when it keeps ringing. When in that situation, I get that. Um, what the thing we got to remember with that is that the person on the other end of the phone that is actually calling us doesn't know that we don't really want to engage in conversation at that time. They don't know that because we haven't answered the phone. So, in that situation, to avoid that frustration, we can answer the phone, politely say to that person, look, it's not you, it's just that I'm having a day where I just need some time to myself. Um, I'm just, everything's cool, I'm just taking it easy, but I don't really feel like talking right now. And that's all we've got to say. Just to let the other person know that everything's cool, and then they won't persistently keep ringing. Um, so things like that. I mean, frustration in many different ways. I mean, there's many different things that can frustrate us, but it really all just comes down to the one solution, and that is whatever we are doing, or whatever situation we may find ourselves in that is actually frustrating, can be avoided by simply letting people know. Like if it may be a person that has frustrated you, um, talking through the situation, communication is important. When we actually feel like, we get to the point where we feel like talking about things, because I realise if we are getting frustrated with a person, sometimes we need, again, to step away for a little bit to calm the frustration down, and then go back and go back to that person that may be frustrating us, and then talk to that person rationally, calmly, just have a conversation about what you may be feeling, how this person may have frustrated you, or how you may have frustrated them, and just basically come away from it with a clean slate. there's really no way for us to let frustration take over our whole being, and with that, ruin our day. So I'll leave you with this little piece of wisdom, I guess. When you find yourself getting frustrated, just take a little break. Take a little break to reflect on why you are actually getting frustrated. Get to the root of what you're feeling, what emotions are coming through, why you're feeling these emotions. Maybe meditate on it for a little bit. Just take some time in those moments to breathe. Because otherwise, if we don't, that is when things can escalate. And in turn, with that, we really are only hurting ourselves, because it is damaging to the soul. It disturbs our inner peace to be frustrated at any given time. And really, in anything that we do, if we can achieve calm in any situation, there's almost anything that we can get through. I myself have been through many different stressful, frustrating situations throughout life, so I have in fact somewhat mastered the art of calming myself. There are a few different triggers and whatnot, because I have actually got a little bit of PTSD from spending a little bit of time in hospitals when I was a kid and stuff. So I do have situations that really test my patience. But even with things like PTSD, there are ways to not necessarily fix the PTSD, but just to manage it. Now, the first step to that is to actually identify what these triggers are, what they frustrate, what is actually frustrating us. Like I said with the other thing, identifying what is frustrating us, and I can't stress that enough. The key to any inner turmoil is actually the key to dealing with any inner turmoil at any given time is to actually find out what it is that is frustrating us. So I will leave you all with those few thoughts, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out.